Hello, everybody. I'm Jordan. Thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm excited to share with you our Google Cloud solution that we started looking into about almost a year ago today. So to give you just a brief history, so I'll try and speed through this as quickly as I can. I work for a company called Rodeo FX. It was started in 2006. The company in 2006 was basically map painting and compositing. So you can think Photoshop, a lot of different layers of Photoshop, and then you can think integrating it into a live plate environment. Pretty cool. At this time, I was actually working for Sony Pictures Imageworks, and although I'm a software engineer, I got a job working the graveyard shift on Polar Express. I was a render wrangler, so effectively my job was managing the render farm, managing the storage, and making sure it all worked correctly. If you guys could have told me 10 or 11 years later, I would be sitting up here talking to you about render farm, storage, and making it work correctly. I don't even know what to say. So I'm quite surprised. So then I moved from sunny Los Angeles to lovely Montreal. I moved from a company that was massive, with a massive pipeline and a massive infrastructure, to a company that was about yay size when I got there, maybe about 30 people. We all fit into a stairwell. And effectively, I was tasked with filling in the rest of the pipeline, being able to bring Rodeo to a company that would be much larger, that could handle all aspects of visual effects. And as of today, we are growing. We are actually 230 people. We are stretched across 3 different studios in Montreal, Los Angeles, and Quebec City. And as described, we actually won our very first Emmy Award for Game of Thrones, which we were really excited about. And thank you so much. And then on top of that, we got a Visual Effects Award for our work on Birdman, which we were incredibly excited about as well. So we are definitely originally a tiny little boutique studio, but as you can see, we are moving our way up in the industry. That said, one of the things that was really important was, especially a studio that was maybe 15 to 30 people, is we wanted to be nimble. We wanted to sort of retain the qualities that made us successful in the beginning. So there's nimbleness, the ability to be flexible, the ability to be inventive. We didn't want to be constrained to any one thing. We wanted to be able to make all things work, and whatever the solution could be, we were going to go with the one that was the most amazing and the best at that time in order to bring about the most beautiful shot. That's pretty cool. So this is Rodeo FX today. Thank you. So, I mean, that's really cool. But I mean, my position is to make sure that I'm looking ahead in the future. And so I'm really happy that we're able to present a reel like that today. But of course, I need to be constantly looking ahead and trying to find the best tools and the best workflow to allow us to continue to not only produce these types of images, but also to produce even better ones. Um, so these are just, and of course, the focus for us has always been the same: produce the most beautiful image we can, and we're never satisfied until we do. Um, but beautiful shots take a lot of time to render, and unfortunately, you can throw CPUs, you can throw storage, you can throw everything at it. But time is never your ally. And as we wrapped up last year around this time for Game of Thrones, I needed to look ahead to figure out how I was going to be able to support a lot of different productions. I needed to be able to come up with my own emergency button. And that was actually what brings me to my presentation today. The way in which I ended up building, or we ended up building, excuse me, because there's a ton of engineers who helped me do this. We ended up building our Google Cloud proof of concept solution. So the first thing was transparency. Artists are very fickle. They do not like change. So they particularly don't care if they're rendering in the cloud or rendering locally or rendering on their machine. They just don't care to know what happens under the hood. So whatever we did, whatever solution we chose, it had to be something that was more or less hidden from the artist and hidden from production. On top of that, scalable. Obviously, we are a small studio, so the ability to be able to scale, to be able to burst, to be able to handle whatever emergencies are coming up at that time is super important. Easy integration and management. We have built out our own pipeline. I mean, obviously, we have our own pipeline, and we've integrated it enormously with products like Shotgun and with products like Cube. And we really had no intention of tossing that all away and trying to adopt something else in parallel or try and completely reinvent the wheel. We wanted to use what we had, and we just wanted it to just work. Obviously, it needed to be secure. You can just take a look at the Sony hack. You can take a look at expendables. It's a common theme in our industry. And it has to be price conscious. We use our render farm 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So those needs need to be able to fit and not completely put us out of business. So the first thing I did was I enlisted one of our engineers, Alan, and I called him a Cloud Pipeline TD, and he seemed to be cool with that title. And so he ended up sort of helping me build out this proof of concept. The first idea that I had was the not invented here strategy. I went and took a look at a lot of common turnkey options, and unfortunately, nothing really met our needs. So we ended up going with the build it yourself strategy. And when we started looking, and in the same vein, we started looking at all of the different options there. And what became sort of a common theme was Google ended up coming out checking all of the boxes for us. So once we had sort of decided on where we were going to go, now we needed to start building our solution. So this is sort of our prototype. We started with a single machine with just one NFS share. And it could handle a dozen slaves, and we were super happy about that. But it failed as soon as we went above about a dozen. All of a sudden, a frame that would take maybe 20 minutes suddenly was taking an hour and a half, and we had angry artists. So we needed to go back and rethink. So then we ended up choosing Gluster FS. And it was open source. And so just to give you a sense of how things grow, September 22nd, 2014, we went with a 9 terabyte usable storage. We thought, that's amazing. That'll be more than enough. And it wasn't enough. We toppled that thing really, really quickly. I think at that time we were working on Sunday Night Football, the opening for Sunday Night Football and the Super Bowl, and it was just killing us. So we ended up increasing the storage space. We went to 18 terabytes. And again, to 30 terabytes. As you can see, storage just keeps, we just keep needing more and more storage. And we were using it. We finally toppled out at 48. And we could scale the storage, and we were like, fantastic, we've totally fixed it. If I render locally at Rodeo, if I render on the cloud, we're getting equivalent times, artists are happy, and we have a little bit more flexibility. But the configuration on the cloud was really not ideal. So we needed to go back and, again, rethink that. Initially, we were just using a very kind of simple VM, and what we would do was update it and then push it out. But ultimately, that also became a really, really, really hard thing to manage. So we needed to sort of go back and think, well, what's more flexible, what's more granular? So we started using Salt. And like I said, I'm providing you with a solution. I'm not revealing any secret strategies here. Rodeo doesn't work with secret strategies. We try and work with whatever's available, whatever's out there. We think that's the easiest way to get from A to B. So we use Salt, open source, free. It's actually quite good. So we've got our Salt master. We've got all of our Salt minions, and the Salt minions then ask the Salt master for their configuration, and we can manage this configurations in one central spot. And guess what? It works, and it actually works pretty well. And as soon as an instance starts up, it makes sure that it has everything it needs. As soon as it starts up, has everything it needs, boom, Cube, which is our render tool, immediately starts up and starts accepting jobs and starts rendering. And then as soon as we did that, our Salt master accidentally went down, and we realized probably could use more than one to have redundancy. So we ended up going with a multi-master setup, and that ended up working really well as well. The other issue that we had was just I/O from Montreal to the Google Cloud. Montreal's a great city, but its connectivity to Google is a little shaky at best. And of course, the first thing we used was rsync, and rsync is it's not awesome. And it was topping out at 300 megabits per second, so it simply wasn't suiting our needs. So then we found a project by the guys who smash atoms together, an open source project called FDT, so made by the CERN lab. And suddenly we were able to get speeds that were huge, 1 gigabit. So huge, in fact, that I started taking down Rodeo FX anytime I started pushing data up. So we ended up solving that problem. Everything worked great. We completely have our solution now. We've solved the disk storage. We've solved the ability to move data back and forth. So everything's fantastic. So effectively, we've sort of built our own little pipeline. And the idea is when anybody, especially with a company like Rodeo FX, where typically we are looking to render locally and live at Rodeo as much as we can, but when it gets too out of hand, we need to be able to press the emergency button, and that's the whole point of our solution into Google Cloud. So Carrie Underwood, Super Bowl, boom, emergency button. Summons the Gluster storage pool, suddenly we have our storage. The artists then tick, yeah, use the Google Cloud. They don't care. Then, cleverly enough, it goes back to Shotgun. Shotgun all of a sudden goes, great, you want to render this scene? Well, let me go and take a look using the Shotgun toolkit. Amazing, amazing, awesome API. It says, great, you need all of this stuff. Bam. Thank you, Shotgun. And then we use the CERN Lab FDT to upload everything. The VMs are booted, the VMs are configured, and all of a sudden we start rendering Arnold, Houdini, whatever you want, and everybody is happy. And then once the rendering is done, we use the same product from CERN to pull it back down to Rodeo. Not terribly complicated, and like I said, just a lot of engineering time and a lot of failures to be able to get to a solution that ultimately ends up working. And so we're quite happy and quite pleased with what we've got. And effectively, we were able to transform our emergency button into a Google emergency button, and then turn it off. because we only need it when we actually need it, but it's always sort of there, ever present, and it's exactly the type of stuff that when we need to call upon it again, we are all ready to go. That is my presentation, and thank you so much.